Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to the Retro Tech channel. If you're new here, my name's Technohead. I'm a former member of the video game industry. I worked in it for about 15 years, and now I'm just a retro game enthusiast and collector. Currently, I'm working on a series of videos taking a look at the value of classic video games over the last 20 years. We've already made some great videos about classic systems like the Atari 2600, the Intellivision, the ColecoVision, the Odyssey 2, the Atari 5200, and even the classic Vectrex. But today, we're taking a look at a slightly more obscure system. A system that's so obscure that I have never actually seen one in person. I haven't seen one at a classic game expo. I haven't seen one at a thrift store. I haven't seen one at a retro game store. They're very difficult to find. The system that I'm talking about today is the Bally Astrocade. Games like Space Fortress here are relatively easy to find, but the console itself is rather expensive and hard to find. As we take a look at these games, we'll find out whether or not the rarity and obscurity of the system has an impact on their value over time. Doing research for this video was fun because this was a system that I really didn't know very much about. One thing I've noticed about the Bally Astrocade is that it actually had really great sound, and that's probably because the company Bally was an arcade hardware company, and as I was looking at some of the videos, I could definitely hear sounds that I recognized from arcade games back in the day. The other interesting thing about the Bally Astrocade is that it was almost like a computer. One of the games that we're going to be looking at today isn't really a game as much as it is a cartridge for writing your own games in BASIC. And the Bally even had a long history after it was no longer available at retail for people who were writing their own games and distributing them through newsletters and sharing games back and forth. It's an interesting early example of a social system that got built around a video game system. We're going to be using the price guide that was included in the book Collecting Classic Video Games by Billy Galaxy that came out in 2002. Then we'll take those prices adjusted for inflation and compare them to prices from pricecharting.com for complete in-box examples of those games to see how the values of the games have changed over the past 20 years. Will the prices have gone up? Will they have gone down? Could you buy a Porsche if you bought one of these games back in the day? I don't know. We're going to take a look and see together. In addition to taking a look at the values, I've also included the rarity for each game from rarityguide.com. This will give us some context to see if the rarity itself is a contributing factor to the value of the game and how it's changed over time. So let's take a look at 25 of the games for the Bally Astrocade and see how their values have changed from 2002 until today in 2022. Starting off the list at number 25, we've got a game cartridge that is not actually a game. This is Bally Basic, which was a game that lets you program a game on your Bally Astrocade in BASIC. In 2002, this cartridge was going for $124, and today you could get a complete in-box copy for $29, which is a 77% decrease in value. This is a rarity of 64 for Bally Basic. At number 24, we've got Incredible Wizard. Incredible Wizard is kind of a maze game. It almost looks a little bit like Mr. Do, where you're walking around and shooting either a crossbow or maybe a wand or something at other enemies in a labyrinth. This game was $50 in 2002, and today in 2022 it goes for about $21, which is a 58% decrease in value over the past 20 years. At number 23, we've got a classic Space Invaders clone. This is Astro Battle. And Astro Battle was a $42 game back in 2002. And this serviceable Space Invaders clone goes for only $18 nowadays, which is a 57% decrease in value. This is not an especially rare game at $37 on the rarity guide. Number 22, we've got Dog Patch. Now, Dog Patch was where Little Abner lived, and that might have been a reference kids in the 70s would have got. I don't know if that's what it's supposed to be, but This is basically a skeet shooting game. The Bally Astrocade had 2 controller ports, and so my guess is you'd play this against another person shooting the pigeon back and forth. This was $45 back in the day, and today a copy would go for $20, which is a 56% decrease in value. At number 21 is Amazing Maze. This is another 2-player game using a labyrinth layout. Essentially, you're competing against the other person to find your way through a maze and to get to their castle before they can do the same to you. This game was going for $33 back in 2002, according to the price guide. And today, in 2022, a copy of this game, complete in box, is $15. Number 20, we have Space Fortress. This is a clone of the arcade game Space Zzzap, which is a really fantastic game for the time, maybe a little basic by today's standard, but a very fun game and looks like a colorful rendition on the Astrocade. This was $33 back in 2002, and today it goes for about $15. '19, we have a pretty typical early 80s driving game, Grand Prix. As you can see from the gameplay, it's relatively basic. You're just going around in a circle. I imagine there was probably some other track layouts, but this is pretty straightforward, sort of like Atari's Turbo or something like that was popular in the arcades at the time. This was $42 back in 2002, and today it's gone down to $19. That's followed up by Star Battle, which does a pretty serviceable job of creating a kind of 3D trench fight. You can see there's 2-player gameplay between an X-Wing and a TIE Fighter, unlicensed, of course. Star Battle was going for about $42 back in the day, and today a copy of Star Battle would cost you about $22. That's a 49% decrease in value, and this is not an especially rare game at $36. At number 17, we've got Zzzap and Dodge'em. These are 2 games, kind of like Night Driver for the Atari systems, where you're basically getting a first-person view, and the posts on the side of the road are giving you the impression of driving on a windy road. This was a $33 game back in 2002, and today it goes for about $20, which means that this is about a 39% decrease in value over time. At number 16, we have Galactic Invasion, and this is a great-looking Galaga clone for the Bally Astrocade. I love the colors. It has a similar star field that we've seen in a couple other games, and just looks like a fun game. Looks like the gameplay is great. This was $33 back in the day, and today it's going for about $20, which is a 39% decrease in value for Galactic Invasion. Cosmic Raiders comes in at number 15. Cosmic Raiders basically looks to me like it's a Defender clone. It has a great, like many other Astrocade games, a great colorful kind of primary color palette and good-looking explosions and everything like that. This game was $75 back in the day, and it's maintained a lot of that value. It goes for $46 today, and looks like a pretty good game for the Astrocade. At number 14, we have Artillery Duel. This is a game that was on many different systems, versions of this game, where you basically choose the power and altitude at which you're shooting at your enemy and hoping for the best. This was a $33 game back in the day, and today it goes for $22, which is a 33% decrease in value for Artillery Duel. Lucky number 13 is the Mixcart Panzer Attack and Red Baron. Panzer Attack is essentially combat. In fact, this cartridge is essentially combat, because combat also had flying games in it. You can see from the gameplay here, it's similar to the tank level in Tron. This was a $33 game back in the day, and it's stayed pretty close to that value today. A box copy goes for $25, and that's a 25% decrease in value over time. Here's one that will freak out some of my friends who don't like clowns. It's Clowns! Clowns looks a lot like the game Circus that I think came out on some Atari systems. You're basically playing a couple of clowns and you're bouncing each other up to grab balloons. It's a whimsical game that was $33 back in 2002. And today in 2022, it goes for about $27, which is a 17% decrease in value for clowns. Wouldn't be a classic system without some sports games, would it? And coming in at number 11 is baseball and tennis. What can you say? It's a baseball game, and it's also got a tennis game. These are classic pack-in style games for these systems. This game is $33 back in the day, and it's actually stayed really close to that value, which is impressive for a sports game. It's $29 nowadays, and this is about a medium rarity at a 48. At number 10, we have a Solar Conqueror. If I had to say, I would say this kind of looks like the Bally Astrocade's version of Star Raiders, maybe. It's got some cool warp sections, and you're going to different planets and taking them over and things like that. And the gameplay looks a little bit like Yar's Revenge. This game was $50 back in the day, and it's held its value pretty well over time. It's sitting at $45 today for a box copy. This is a very rare game for the system at an 80. That's followed up by Pirate's Chase at number 9. Pirate's Chase is an interesting game. I was looking at the gameplay, and I guess the idea is you're trying to gobble up as many of those black dots, which they're calling gold doubloons, before your opponent does. And this was a $33 game back in the day, and it has not moved at all. It's still $33 today. So it's got the Hold anime girl. Hold! This is a game style that was very prevalent in the early 80s, a sort of submarine attack game. This is Seawolf at number 8. There are a lot of games like this in the arcades, and early electrical mechanical arcade games before video games came out. There's a lot of games like this. This game was $33 back in the day, and it's gone up slightly to $36 today, so that's a 10% increase in value for a copy of this game, which is a little bit higher than average rarity at a 60. That's followed up by an extremely rare game, Blast Droids. I'm not even sure if this is the actual box. This is the best thing I could find. Back in the day, a copy of Blast Droids would go for $141, and that's gone up about 20%, and now a copy goes for about $169 for Blast Droids. This has a rarity of 88, making it a very rare game. Not the most rare game on this list, but certainly one of the higher ones. At number 6, we have Biorhythm. And for those of you that are not children of the 70s, a biorhythm was kind of like astrology. It was sort of this like pseudo-science love meter type of thing you would see back in the day in arcades. And this is a video game version of that. It was $50 back in the day, and today to measure your biorhythm would cost you $61, which is a 21% increase in value over time for Biorhythm. Got ourselves another one of those underwater submarine games, but this time it's a side-on view. It's almost like a submarine version of Defender. This is Sea Devil coming in at number 5. This is one of the most rare games on this list. It has a 93 rarity. Went for $174 back in the day, and it's jumped up almost $100 to $274 today. That's a 58% increase in value for Sea Devil. That's followed up by a Pac-Man clone. You can't have an 80s console without a Pac-Man clone, and Astrocade had one called Muncher. Back in the day, a copy of Muncher was going for about $108, and as you can see from the gameplay here, this is a pretty good version of Pac-Man for the system. Today, it's doubled in price almost. It's up to $201, which is an 86% increase in value for Muncher for the Bally Astrocade. That's followed up by another very rare game. This is Treasure Cove, which was a later game to come out for the system. Treasure Cove sees you sort of swimming around wrecks and collecting treasure and things like that. This game was $141 back in the day. And today, a copy of Treasure Cove goes for about $300, which is a 112% increase in value over time. Not the most rare game on the list, but definitely rare at a 78. And that's followed up by Space Invaders, which is basically a similar game to the earlier Space Invaders that we saw on the list. In fact, it could just be a repackaging of the same game because all the video I saw was the same, but they did have different names. So this version, called Space Invaders, has a 79% rarity on Rarity Guide. It was $33 back in the day and $85 today. That's a 159% increase in value. And that brings us to the final game, the game with the largest jump in price. This is the most rare game on here, Mrs. Candyman, which looks like it might be a Miss Pac-Man clone, but it's not quite a Miss Pac-Man clone, as you can see from the gameplay. Back in the day, a copy of Miss Candyman would go for about $149, and today it goes for an impressive $615 for a copy of Miss Candyman. That's a 313% increase in value for the most rare game on the Bally Astrocade. If you enjoyed this video, I have a playlist of all the other videos I've made in this series, and I'll be making several more in the future. So I'd encourage you to click the subscribe button so you can be notified when future videos in this series are released. And while you're here, you might as well mash that like button too. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for coming by and checking out the video today. I had a lot of fun doing research on the Bally Astrocade, and I hope that this video was enjoyable for you too, especially if this was an obscure console that you hadn't heard of either. I'm Technohead, and this is Retro Tech, and we'll see you next time.
Channel 10, 9, 8, ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engines running, commit. Liftoff. We are for 11:22 a.m. Standard time. Chief Conrad reports that your program is in. Altitude.